Alright, got the clean and...
Are you ready, kids?
No, I'm not ready.
I can't hear you!
No, I said no. I said no. Come on, man, no!
Oh, who lives in a pineapple under the...
A sponge!
Alright, so last month, I put up a poll for a video that could tide y'all over until I get the outright games ranking I promised out. And y'all chose pretty highly on SpongeBob games. This totally makes sense to me. In the 2000s, SpongeBob ruled the world, not just with his show, but with video games. Many like myself most likely grew up with the PS2 to Wii games that SpongeBob starred in. And since that fateful day in 2001 with a Game Boy Color game, SpongeBob was starred in roughly 18 games, ranging from the Game Boy Color to even recent consoles. It's amazing to me that SpongeBob still has presence with gaming, and today I'm taking a look at the 18 major games he starred in since his debut. Not a lot of exceptions, but I won't be considering, say, Battle for Bikini Bottom for GBA or PC, or anything that's just a handheld version of a console game. That being said, other handheld titles that were exclusive to just a handheld will be considered here. Also, I picked up 2 old PC games here, some of the earliest SpongeBob titles. You can find them on this website here, myabandonedware.com, alongside a bunch of other old PC games. Also, I was going to include the Xbox arcade title Underpants Slam, but I could not for the life of me find a way to play it, so that sucks. Hey guys, guess what I just found out? Yeah, so I haven't been able to look at my Xbox in a little bit now, but when I went to go get the Truth or Square gameplay, because I had it like since forever, I found out that you can get Underpants Slam for $10 on the Xbox store. I apologize for this inconvenience. I literally did not know until I'm just recording this, so sorry about that. Also, because y'all crushed the last like goal, an outright games ranking will be coming, but on the poll that led to this video, one of my most frequent commenters claimed Looney Tunes games would also be a good one for the future. So if y'all want to see that happen next month, since the outright games ranking will most likely be in May, let's go for 40 likes this time. Anyways, 18 SpongeBob games. Let's get to it.
You're the worst around. Everything's gonna bring you down.
Okay, so for the worst of the worst, the game that genuinely couldn't even count as a video game, as it defies the exact definition of one, I'd like to start with a simple question. Have you ever had a little cousin come up to you at a Christmas family reunion or whatnot, and would that little cousin show you a picture he drew, like, this is me and my daddy, and you're like, oh wow, Jerome, that's a great drawing. But then your other relatives come around and say, oh wow, this needs to be hung up in a museum, it's better than Mona Lisa. And you question how you're related to these Pepsi drinkers? Like, come on, it's good for a 4-year-old, you're not gonna dash his dreams, but it ain't no Mona Lisa, don't lie to yourself. You would never put this in a museum next to actual works of art. Atlanta SquarePants was THQ's yearly SpongeBob release for 2007. Note how I didn't say it was a SpongeBob game, because by every meaning of the word, this isn't a video game. It is at best an art exhibit titled THQ Gives Up. This exhibit, as I will call it from here on out, follows SpongeBob and the gang going on a little road trip to Atlantis after SpongeBob and Patrick found the Atlantean amulet in a cave. You know what that means?
I sure fucking do.
Yep, this is based on the absolutely despised episode of SpongeBob of the same name. An episode many call one of the worst episodes. As THQ clearly showed with other titles, they didn't care if the episode wasn't liked. They didn't have a SpongeBob exhibit for 2007, so here it is. A boring, repetitive, short, and downright not fun game. Look, for the shit that I give Creature from the Krusty Krab later, that being the previous yearly title, it had an identity, it had an idea behind it. It's not my favorite of the games by a long shot, but it at least tries to be different. There are 14 levels in this game, and I was able to play through half of them in an hour. And of those levels, the first was a tank driving minigame where you shoot easy targets and there's no exploration or reason to do anything else. The second was a cave exploration level. Exploration is used very loosely as there's no paths for you to take, just linear and not fun. Then a photo minigame, because why not? Then an offbeat DDR session, then a bus driving minigame, and then the exact same thing as the last DDR session, except even more offbeat with no music. And did I mention once you finish them, there's no real reason to go back for any cool extras? All the best SpongeBob games had replayability. You would want to go back to see more of the levels once you had the right abilities to do so. But here, it's a linear and not fun experience. Literally, you do the same 4 things across all 14 levels. It's so lazy, and to prove to you how little identity this has, it legit just has a remixed version of the menu music from Creature from the Krusty Krab. There are barely any good things about this. Never in a million years did I feel like I was enjoying myself playing it. I was in autopilot the entire time. Nothing else to say. It's the worst of this entire lineup. One of the most abhorrent exhibits I've ever played. Alright, not too far off from Atlanta SquarePants is the first SpongeBob game ever, The Legend of the Lost Spatula for the Game Boy Color. Now I give this a little more slack since A, it's the first ever SpongeBob game and had very little to go off of, and B, unlike Atlanta SquarePants, it has a little bit of an identity of its own. But a few problems do arise with Legend of the Lost Spatula. At first I didn't mind the platforming, until it became annoying and cluttered and unpredictable. Also, they're straight up an enemy I can't fight, these fucking clams. I have one attack being a bubble-blowing baby, and don't think we don't know how to win! And the clams will hurt you no matter what, and don't even think you can jump over them. The walls and barriers are usually so compact, it's no use! Avoiding them is usually your best bet if they don't jump you like bad boys in leather jackets in an alleyway snapping their fingers. It's like every essence of this game is just meant to be the most unplayable platformer out there. And the Game Boy Color had some notably bad platformers. The only thing it gets over Atlantis is that it's set out to do something, and even if it does it poorly, it does it. Still, for being the first SpongeBob game ever, not the greatest first impression. Okay, so these next two kind of go hand in hand with each other, but thankfully they round out the bad tier in this list. At number 16 is Plankton's Robotic Revenge, and at number 15 is SpongeBob Hero Pants. Playing these two back to back, by God, are these even different? Beat 'em ups where you go to one area, beat up enemies, then another, rinse and repeat, blow my brains out. It's so repetitive and boring. Both of them feel like dime a dozen beat 'em ups, not SpongeBob-based dime a dozen beat 'em ups. What Hero Pants has, I'll say, is the hero stuff. It's at least a little different, but they're practically interchangeable at other rates. Man, Atlanta SquarePants was bad. I sure hope there wasn't another SpongeBob game from THQ that was loosely based on a hated episode. Son of a bitch! Starting off the meh tier is Truth or Square. Now, I get a lot of people who have fonder memories of this one, and I grew up with it too, and I remember liking it, even though I played the Wii version, which is like bathing with duct tape. But playing the Xbox 360 version of this on the Series S, because what else am I doing with this thing? Playing Security Breach? Yeah, it's just not fun. Truth or Square, I mean, well, okay, I'll get back to you on that. Five Nights at Freddy's ranking? I give it's a bit more open-ended than Atlanta SquarePants, but the gameplay has definitely lost some value over the years. SpongeBob loses his memory of where he puts the Krabby Patty secret formula, so he goes through some happy memories to remember. Why is this called Truth or Square? The only kind of thing this is similar with Truth or Square is that there's different flashbacks of things from the past, and the gameplay, it's just very repetitive. Which is funny because this was developed in part by Heavy Iron, the guys behind the older SpongeBob titles. Some of the best to be exact. So it makes no sense with this being as painfully average as it is. I can respect that Truth or Square by large does the trick, but with how boring it is, I can't respect much else. Who lives in a pineapple on LSD? Me. SpongeBob's Boating Bash, my 13th reason. Yeah, it's kind of funny how every major franchise had some kind of kart racer in the late 2000s to early 2010s range. And yeah, Boating Bash is by far and large another racing game. Completely inoffensive. What do you want me to say? It's a masterpiece. It's SpongeBob Boating Bash, not the birth of Venus. I'm gonna ghost ride this hoe. So while it's often said that Super Sponge was the first SpongeBob console game as it came out in 2001 on the PS1, a year later we got the first 3D SpongeBob game that set up the basics for what a SpongeBob game should be. Revenge of the Flying Dutchman. This is horrid. This animation looked weird to me even as a kid. Like, why does his mouth look like that? This game has SpongeBob facing off against the Flying Dutchman, who threatens to take all of his friends because he ratted Gary out.
Stop snitching. You can have whatever you want.
The game is essentially a platformer where you're actively doing anything but going to face off against the Dutchman. There's definitely a lack of urgency to this game. Like, oh my god, the Flying Dutchman took my best friend Gary! Karate! That being said, it has its charms. While the modeling isn't anything special, this was a whole year before Heavy Iron killed it and blew this game out of the water. This was the first 3D SpongeBob game, so I give it some slack. I hate the delivery mission with every fiber of my being. I'm really starting to think this whole segment led to my hatred for British people, and that makes no sense.
That's why I hate crumpet people.
But by God, the issue I have with this game isn't the gameplay or the modeling. This game has some of the most ungodly controls I've ever seen. My lord, it's like throwing a baby into the ceiling. It's not fun, it's just incredibly stiff and awkward, and usually one of you starts crying after playing. It's also notable that most people think this game shut down a studio. Big Sky Interactive notably shut down not long after the release and notable flop of this game, due to its poor reviews. Though it's not technically confirmed if this game was the big nail in the coffin, it's often associated with the studio's closures, so it's like a smaller nail. For everything else though, it tried with what it had, but let's just be glad Heavy Iron came in and smoothed things out. Alright, so another two I'm gonna pair together for the sake of them being similar are the two PC games. At number 11 is Operation Krabby Patty, and at number 10 is Employee of the Month. These were some of the earliest games for SpongeBob, and to my knowledge, they're pretty iconic. I can see why. Both of them do about the same. They're point and clicks within the world of SpongeBob. I'm pretty indifferent towards both of them, so let's just move on. Next up is the Yellow Avenger, which released for the DS and the PSP. I specifically checked out the DS version, and honestly, it was a solid enough platformer. This of course has you be the hero and save the Bikini Bottom citizens from the Dirty Bubble and his minions. While incredibly simple, the superpowers are what makes this game fun. For the DS version, you use the touchpad to draw a certain shape to activate your powers. It's simple, but it achieved what it needed to do, and that's better than Atlantis Square Panis. Alright, so I know some people look back on Creature from the Krusty Krab with fond memories. This was legit the one SpongeBob game from the PS2 span that I didn't play. I have no fond memories of this game. But playing it, it's fine. I recall playing it for one of my ungodly awful videos from my younger years, and I noticed how I played through a decent chunk and found it pretty fun, but kind of repetitive. And that's fair, like the race we do in the first level. Who am I racing against? Who's my rival? But the different art styles, the fun level design, and decent variety in gameplay makes this serviceable, but not quite one of my favorites. Alright, our last handheld title, SpongeBob vs. the Big One. You gotta be fucking kidding me. Okay, well this special wasn't as hated as Truth or Square or Atlantis Square Panis, and it had Johnny Depp. How can you hate Johnny Depp? Fair enough. Although, like Truth or Square, this is stretching for being called SpongeBob vs. the Big One, as the plot actually follows a cooking competition between us, the Krusty Krab, and the Chum Bucket. I will say I like that Plankton's cousins make a return here. You go through 4 different stations to assist those who need it. The mini-games are pretty similar, pounding meat, stirring ingredients, sorting a sandwich. It's honestly really functional and makes for a fun game. Honestly, I didn't even realize I got 30 minutes of gameplay in it. Now, considering I'm playing the DS game that relies heavily on touchpad controls using, dear god, anything that's not a DS that relies heavily on touchpad controls, one minigame didn't work, and that was the stirring game. It must have needed specific inputs because I couldn't get it to work. And by god, we better hope Gordon Ramsay doesn't use this for an episode of Kitchen Nightmares. Where's the Bobby sauce? It's Plankton, that fucking donkey.
Sounds like a lot of...
But I can't hate a game for not working because I didn't want to purchase it legally. For everything else, it's repetitive and not the most fun, but it's definitely fun enough for an evening. Alright, my top 6 are on the best tier, the tier of the games I consider the best of the best when it comes to the SpongeBob catalog. The one I have the least to say on is Super Sponge, the first console SpongeBob game for the PS1. Now, this game definitely has its flaws and most tend to point them out, but for me, I found it very much fun. Albeit a little crowded, but it definitely feels like SpongeBob. I feel like it does right what Legend of the Lost Spatula did wrong. Make a fun platformer that doesn't crowd too much but can prove difficult for new players. While it's the one I have the least to say on, I'm still glad I checked it out. Pretty fun overall. One of the games I was expecting to look back on and not enjoy was Lights, Camera, Pants. This was the 2005 yearly release for THQ, and honestly, it holds up interestingly well. It's a party game where SpongeBob and his friends compete for an extra spot in the new Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy movie. Oh, and by the way, this hammerhead shark is voiced by Nolan North. Yeah, look it up. Each level has a different set of challenges, and you have to do the best out of the 4 to get the part. Usually judged by a related SpongeBob character, Bubble Bassett the Krusty Krab, Larry at the Goo Lagoon, the list goes on. Each minigame has so much going on in it, and it all feels great for the first minute. Yeah, I've maxed 3 minutes for each minigame, and it feels like it. In the Krusty Krab level, we have a flipping burger segment. I see why Squidward isn't a fry cook. Patrick, this green burger looks scrumptious. You big-nosed bastard, you've doomed us all. The order up thing was weird because it feels like we were doing really good, but Squidward messed up basic orders. Squidward, how the fuck are you a cashier? All you do is take orders. And the bouncing the inventory thing is fine, but very repetitive. At least SpongeBob was my partner. And even then, I had to do a rock, paper, scissors segment because I tied with SpongeBob. I lost. Do you think Patrick was watching this whole thing with murderous intent?
I sure do love it.
Pepper up!
That bastard Spongy stole my fame. My game's better.
Goo Lagoon had far better minigames, and the rest is so fun to go through. For my money, it's not a perfect game, but Lights, Camera, Pants surprised me with how fun it is and how much it held up. Okay, so in May I'm going to do an outright games ranking, and imagine my surprise how of their 51 games, they've only made one SpongeBob game. Behold, the Patrick Star game, somehow one of Outright's most prestigious titles. This is essentially a broken SpongeBob version of Goat Simulator. You go around terrorizing citizens and violating jellyfish for no real reason. I like how laid back this is. It's broken beyond belief, but damn it, it's fun to play. It's fun to just go to a random area and fuck around, destroying everything in my path. It makes such simple tasks as collecting garbage and jellyfishing so fun.
Oh, sorry, don't mind me. My driver's license disintegrated.
Everything was just so fun. It's why I do hold out for the company. For as bad as Outright is, games like this and the Dragons game I discussed in the DreamWorks ranking prove Outright can make good games, but they have their share of troubles, and that's fair. I mean it when I say serving Krabby Patties has never felt more chaotic.
I hope they don't know I pissed in that patty.
Don't get me wrong, it's not a finished game, but in a game being able to get this much fun out of a guy 15 years older than the demographic it was made for clearly did something right. Okay, so taking bronze is the SpongeBob movie game. This is a classic that just followed up on one of the biggest games for SpongeBob's history. So obviously being based on a movie that was universally loved by the fandom, it had some big shoes to fill. Thankfully, it delivered, one of the most faithful movie tie-ins I've ever seen. Somehow it took an hour-and-a-half long film and stretched it to a variety of levels, and it never felt like it was being stretched. It had such care and effort put into it. It helps this was developed by Heavy Iron, same guys behind the last game. Each level usually has either platforming or a driving mission. Going through the different areas like the Goofy Goober Clubhouse, the Trench, the Outers of Bikini Bottom, driving the paddy wagon, a clam, a bathtub.
We bathe together.
Patrick, your dick is on me. However, I do have to admit, Battle for Bikini Bottom had an open world. Sure, you had to go to certain places first, but it made a Bikini Bottom that was so fun to explore, and I do admit the linear approach was a little underwhelming, but the levels more than make up for it. Ocean man, take me by the hand, lead me to the land that you understand. Ocean man, the trouble with the fuck. Despite everything against it, this still holds up both as a successor to Heavy Iron's last hit, yeah right, and it holds up as a video game tie-in to a movie I hold so dear. The SpongeBob movie game remains an all-time classic in the lineup. Listen, I'm as surprised as you are. The Cosmic Shake is such a surprise to me. I held off on playing it as when I first heard about it, I genuinely had no interest in it, because I thought it was just gonna do the exact same thing Plankton's Robotic Revenge or Truth or Square did. Try too hard to mimic the style of the classics. And in a way, it absolutely does that, but it does it so fucking well. I mean it when I say I was half tempted to give this number 1. I mean seriously, what a surprise! The concept here is that a mermaid gives SpongeBob and Patrick bubbles that can make everyone's dreams come true, but they come with a dark twist and it's up to SpongeBob to save the day. We go to a Wild West level, a movie set, all kinds of fantasies that fit each of the characters. The platforming is surprisingly smooth as well. The story really does feel relevant to the classic Heavy Iron platformers, and the levels are fun to traverse. What these levels do that the others don't is add replayability. Like in Battle for Bikini Bottom, there's certain things you can't do until you have a certain ability, such you have to come back once you've gotten through them. It makes the game have more value than, say, Plankton's Robotic Revenge, where you go through a level and guess what you do after? You finish it. This made this game so fun in my mind, not to mention the writing is on point. As I mentioned, I fear the game would have too many similarities to the classic platformers from the early 2000s, and like I said, it does. Such, I don't think it has its own personality more as it feels like a tribute, which isn't a bad thing. I think that's just what it costed at number 1 when, without my actual number 1, this is nothing. The second problem is the glide mechanic genuinely pissed me off. So the way it works is the glide activates when you hold A. Well, I have a tendency to hold A when I first jump, so guess how many times I'd accidentally glide? It got annoying, man. But all things considered, I am very happy with this. Apparently Purple Lamp made it, and they were the guys behind the Rehydrated remaster. If they end up making more of these in the future, I have no problem supporting them. Same with Outright, yeah, I said it. And now for the moment we've been waiting for. No, it's Battle for Bikini Bottom. The whole term of SpongeBob games would not exist without Battle for Bikini Bottom. Without Battle for Bikini Bottom, we would not have the movie game, Lights, Camera, Pants, Atlantic Square Pants. Okay, maybe there were some mistakes, but even newer titles like Cosmic Shake and Patrick's Star Game couldn't exist without Battle for Bikini Bottom. The games that prefaced this were heavily different than the ones that came after it. Essentially, it's a story about Plankton's robotic army taking over Bikini Bottom and wreaking havoc. Of course, it's up to SpongeBob and his friends to save the day. The game is massive.
Grow up.
The open world here is unlike any licensed game at the time. The levels are so fun to go through. Although I only recorded the first section, I've played this game maybe 50 to almost 100 times. I mean when I say it's a perfect SpongeBob game. I do admit it's been a while since I've seen the original style of this game. If I had played this recently, it was usually the rehydrated version. And get ready for Xander's opinion sucks, I never cared for the rehydrated version of this game. It's a fine remaster, and man, adding multiplayer from the scrapped concept art, total game changer, but a lot of added things game-wise felt kind of forced in. It's why I'm glad Purple Lamp eventually took their own idea and made it unique, because something I've noticed is the addition of memes in the remaster. They're cute, but there's a charm to the original one. It came out a year before the movie, had very little to go off of, but made something special. I like the rehydrated remaster, I just prefer the OG. With everything else, my god. The levels are by far and beyond some of the best in any of these. The replayability is through the roof. I will admit the camera, I don't remember it being that horrendous, but man, it brings me back to a simpler time. Without this game, I would have never gotten into gaming. And I know what you're thinking, well, I got into movies too, what's the point? Well, because of this game, I got into gaming and such, I started forming opinions about what I like and what I don't like. And because I formed these opinions, realizing what I liked and why I liked it, it led me to creating this channel. Okay, I don't think this game quite is the reason this channel exists, but you get what I'm saying, right? Without this game, damn it, I may have never figured out my love for media. For movies, for gaming, for TV shows. I love this game and I owe it a great deal for what it did for me in the long run.
What?
Are you ready, kids?
No, 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 no.
I can't hear you.
No, no, no.
Oh, who lives in a pineapple under the sea?